Can you fix your 2-valve 4.6 liter Ford motor that's been knocking with another junkyard motor? Today, that's what we're gonna find out. Alright, so before we actually get to the car, I want to fully explain what I mean by can you fix your knocking 2-valve motor, which means that you have a spun bearing somewhere with another junkyard motor. So pretty much what we did was we picked up a Mustang that was knocking and we're trying to find the cheapest way to fix it and get it back on the road. And what we did was I knew someone that had a spare block that had some head issues, and I went and picked it up pretty cheaply as well. And I took the crank out of it and I used the bearings out of the good motor and put it into my 2-valve motor. We reused all the bolts from the motor that was knocking, which means that the main cap bolts, the connecting rod bolts that you're supposed to change, we didn't change those, all in a experiment to see if you actually have to do it and if the motor is actually going to run after you reuse those bolts or reuse used bearings from another motor. It's pretty much an experiment just to see how cheaply can you really fix one of these 2-valve 4.6 liter motors that's been knocking. If you guys are not familiar with the channel or familiar with the build, I'm going to let you hear a video of it knocking right now. And pretty much what I did was, just like I said, I used the crank and the bearings from another motor, and me and my son fixed the engine. So one more.
How about big stroke?
Good boy. Very good. Thank you, big boy. Give me 5. Give me 5 with your dirty hand. Boom. Boom. Thank you.
Yeah, let me on the feet.
I gotta do the rest, okay? Let me do the rest. And now we're gonna find out if this motor is gonna run, and is it actually gonna knock, or is it gonna run just fine after repairing it with a used crank from another motor and used bearings from another motor, and also reusing all of the connecting rod bolts and the main bolts that you're not supposed to reuse because they are torque to yield. So without further ado, let's crank this thing up, hope for the best. Alright, so to say the least, I think we just got our answer. Despite those long tube headers just making way too much noise, the motor is definitely not knocking. It's not making a ticking noise. It's not doing anything. I don't have a radiator in it. I don't have all the air hoses hooked up, so I won't want to let it run too long. But this thing was knocking extremely bad, making way more noise than that exhaust ever could. So it's not knocking anymore. And I think we just figured out that you don't have to buy a brand new crank, nor bearings, nor bolts. Now, I don't know how long it's going to last, and that is what we're going to be putting to the test in the very near future. When I get this exhaust welded up, when I get the radiator in, and we have it all wired up, and we have all of our vacuum lines hooked up, we're gonna really be putting this thing on the road and trying to see how many miles we can get on it before it breaks again, before it spins a bearing, something like that. Or before one of those torque to yield bolts in the bottom end of the motor, which is the main caps and the connecting rod bearing, gives way and lets go. Like I said, I'm only in this thing for a few $100, so it's worth, you know, doing the experiment and seeing if we actually need to buy all brand new stuff, or if you can go to a junkyard and get the same result yourself. If you had to ask me in my own personal opinion if you should do this, I recommend this 100%, because if it didn't spin bearing on that first startup, or if it's not knocking or not making any noise from the initial startup, I highly doubt, if you don't run it out of oil, that it's gonna have any issues. So most likely this thing is gonna last for a long time. I won't pass or give it a longevity test pass just yet, but initial startup, no knocking, no noise, no anything, 100% you can fix your engine using another junkyard motor. Take the crankshaft out of it, good bearings, and you should have your motor back on the road if it's knocking. Like I said, longevity, we're gonna test that. We're gonna put a lot of miles on this thing and see when it really breaks, or if it even breaks. If it passes the 500 mile mark, the 1000 mile mark, this thing would be perfect, good to go. So thank you guys so much for watching. Today we actually found out that you can reuse those torque to yield bolts in the bottom end of a Ford motor. You can reuse used bearings. You can also reuse a used crank out of another motor, and your knocking 2-valve 4.6 liter motor will be back on the road fixed. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Always remember, don't drift without your dreams, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.